Hello and welcome to this video where we're going to be looking at the DC130 frame from Atto. It's designed for 3-inch props. It's a 3mm bottom plate, super light and very strong. So let's have a look at these parts individually. As you can see, there's plenty in the box, so we're going to go through them and just have a look what each of them are and where they go. First, let's have a look at the frame itself. It's 130mm from corner to corner, with mountings for anything up to a 1707 motor. In the middle there you've got FC mountings for both the micro 20x20mm and the standard 30.5mm. We've got holes for the battery strap and then a mount for the HS1177 camera bracket up the front. There's also mounts for a 3D printed micro camera mount, which is available separately, and then we've got the mounts for the standoffs to support our top plates. It's 3mm thick carbon. It's very strong with almost no flex in it whatsoever, and we actually haven't managed to break one yet. We've tried pretty hard. If we look at the rest of the kit, this is the nano top plate. This is what we'd advise if you're running a seriously micro setup. So anything with a fixed whip or maybe a lightweight circular polarized antenna can be set up on this. We've got the 20x20 mounts there and 2 of the 30.5 if you want to build up from the stack. And the small hole in the middle there can be used to mount an SMA adapter if you want. If you are choosing to run on the stack, then you can run an antenna straight out the back where this standoff would be and mount it through these 2 little holes. With something like a cable tie or a zip tie. If you're choosing instead to run an antenna out the back, we advise just clipping it into the side and running it past that standoff. This top plate actually clears the props completely on top of the frame, so you can run this at any height and the props will never interfere with this top plate at all. So this is the micro top plate. Building on the nano top plate, it includes the same mounts up the front, but adds the 20x20 and the 30.5 at the back if you want to build a full stack. It also adds a bit more area at the back so that you can attach a horizontal antenna coming out above your props at the back. There's 2 extra holes for SMA adapters if you want to run a vertical antenna. And plenty of holes and little pieces so that you can pass zip ties, cable ties through and attach any components that you want to attach to the bottom of that top plate. On the 130 model, though this top plate fits all of the models, on the 130 model this area here won't clear the props, so you have to run this above your prop height. What it does do is add enough space to put an HD camera on there, and the mounts that we've got coming will in fact fit onto these FC mounts that you can see on the top plate there. The last of the top plates we have here is the piggyback plate. Now this one is actually to be used in conjunction with any of the others. It can sit over the back on a set of supplied 10mm hex standoffs, so that if you want to run a tiny build and you really do need to clear those props because you want to run it really low, you can add an extra little pod. We found this really useful for adding something like a race transponder or an LED pack that's facing backwards, or anything really that's temporary or that you might need at a race, where you're going to fit this, run your transponder protected instead of just sitting on top of your frame for an extra few grams, and then at the end of the day you can unbolt this top plate and carry on running your quad exactly as you did before. As an optional extra, the piggyback plate can actually be run on its own, housing either a line of sight setup or a really micro setup with just a camera sitting out the front on the HS177 mount. This does leave the camera unprotected, but makes your quad look very cool. So the next piece we're going to look at are these little motor protectors and motor risers. These are 3mm carbon, and if you're planning to use your quad as a car park basher and you know that you're going to be doing hard landings all the time, you can run these underneath your frame, and they are non-compressible, unlike TPU motor protectors. All you'll need is 8mm bolts to go through these, through the frame and into the motors. And these are, cheap. You can bash them up, swap them around, bash them up again, and then when you're done, throw them away, replace them with some new ones, and your frame should still be in nice pristine condition. The alternative, if you want to use a higher stack, say you've got full-size flight controller, full-size 4-in-1, and you want to raise your motors up, you can put these in between your frame and your motors, again with those longer bolts. I'll actually bring in an example here of one of the 130 builds, and you can see we've used these motor risers on here just to increase the height of that stack to make sure that that clearance has plenty of space to go over the flight controller. So looking at our next piece of carbon, this is a 20x20 to 30.5 adapter plate. You can use this to run a micro flight controller on top of a 4-in-1, for example. I can bring in an example of that now. So if I can get this in focus, let's have a look there. We can see at the bottom we've got a little B 4-in-1. On top of that we've got our adapter plate, and then there is a Pico flight controller with an Innova VTX on top, which makes a nice tidy stack where the props again aren't really going anywhere near that back stack. These frames were designed with the micro flight controllers in mind. As you can see, that is pretty tidy. It's really direct connections. We haven't got really any wires hanging around anywhere, and this is using the nano plate. So as you can see, we've got full clearance for those props. It keeps the profile nice and close. This quad, by the way, I think has a dry weight of 159 grams, so on 4S motors it's a bit of a monster. So the last bit of carbon you're going to find is the prop spanner. This is a fully functional prop spanner for 3 and 4 inch props. Don't be scared to do your props up with this, although obviously you've got to be reasonable. If you are hammering your props on for 3D use and then you try and undo it with this, you are going to have a bad time. But throw it on a little lanyard, stick it on a keyring, and it can always be in your pocket. I've got one of these on my keys, and I can't tell you the amount of times it's saved me when I've been out without a prop spanner. So in the hardware pack, we've got everything you need to build the lightest possible version of your Atto frame. We've got coloured alloy hardware for your FC stack. We've got titanium bolts for your frame. These are 6mm bolts with 8mm bolts for the 3mm bottom plate. Then we've got plastic nuts, and also we include these alloy prop nuts, which are going to save you on a set of RS1306 motors, for example, from Emax. We're going to save you 7 grams by swapping that out, which is huge on a micro build and definitely worth doing. Lastly, we provide a male battery plug for your build. So on the 130 and the 136, that's going to be these cute little XT30 connectors. Really do recommend these on the small builds, as an XT60 is just too big. So that's everything within the kit. The whole point behind the Atto design is that you can take this frame kit and you can build it in a whole bunch of different ways. You should be able to build it with any components: full-size cameras, full-size VTXs, or micro cameras, micro VTXs, full-size or micro flight controllers, with your choice of motor size. So you can take this, stick 1104 motors on it, and build a little 85 gram, almost a whoop. You can take it with 1707 motors and build an absolute monster that will rival a lot of 5-inch frames. So with all those options, let's have a look at a couple of example builds. These are 2 of the current fleet, both DC130s, 2 different top plates and 2 different types of build. So let's go in on the first. This one uses the micro top plate with that horizontal antenna at the back, so we've got a full-size VTX on the bottom of the top plate. Down here we've got the 4-in-1 ASC, we've got a full-size flight controller, and an Arrow V2 camera. So really this is the exact same build that you would put into a 5-inch, except for the motors. There's no compromises made here for it being a smaller craft. We've got an LED on the back, we've got room for a transponder. This is a tough little acro and race machine. If we have a look at this one, here we've got the exact same capability. We've got the same motors, still running 4S on a 20 amp 4-in-1, only this uses the nano top plate. It has a whip antenna which comes off that Pico and Innova stack. We've still got the full size camera, only this one has built-in OSD and PID tuning, as well as VTX tuning, band and channel selection, all off the sticks. This one doesn't have the same range as the other, but is so nimble at only 159 grams that it's a great little park flyer, completely inoffensive, and actually looks, in its finished state, quite a lot different from the other DC130. The whole idea is that you should be able to go and build our quad your way. So if you have any questions, you can comment on this video, or you can go on the site and leave a comment there, or get in touch with us in a multitude of social media ways. Find us at Atto FPV on Instagram, YouTube and Facebook, and we look forward to seeing you again soon. Cheers.